was a warm, sunny evening in the quiet Ohio suburb of Willow Creek. The air smelled faintly of freshly cut grass, and the neighborhood was alive with the soft hum of children playing and sprinklers spraying. 3-year-old Emily Thompson was giggling as she ran back and forth across the front yard, chasing bubbles her mother had blown moments before. Her tiny feet kicked up dust, and her blonde curls bounced with every step. Her mother, Sarah, stood on the porch talking to Mrs. Henderson next door, completely unaware of how quickly a normal evening could turn into a nightmare. One moment Emily was there, twirling in her pink sundress, and the next, she was gone. Her mother's laughter turned into a panicked scream as she scanned the yard frantically. The garden gate swung open as if it had never been latched, and the soft sound of tires on gravel echoed faintly in the distance. Sarah's voice shook as she called out for Emily, running down the street, knocking on neighbors' doors. Each house she approached offered no answers, only concerned faces and whispered prayers. It felt like the world had suddenly grown impossibly large and empty without her little girl. Within minutes, the neighborhood was in chaos. Police sirens wailed as officers flooded the area, questioning anyone who might have seen something. Anything. Flyers with Emily's picture were quickly printed and handed out to every passerby, while the community formed search parties that combed the nearby woods, alleys, and vacant lots. Yet, as hours turned into days, not a single clue emerged. It was as though Emily had vanished into thin air, leaving behind only the sound of distant sirens, a mother's heartbroken cries, and a town gripped by fear and confusion. As the days passed, the small town of Willow Creek was consumed by the search for Emily. Police officers set up command posts near the Thompson home, coordinating search teams that fanned out across the surrounding woods, abandoned lots, and back roads. K-9 units sniffed every bush and tree line, their handlers shouting commands as the dogs strained at their leashes. Helicopters hovered above, their spotlights cutting through the early morning fog, scanning for any sign of the little girl. Volunteers poured in from neighboring towns, their hands trembling with fear as they called out Emily's name, praying that someone, somewhere, had seen her. Every lead was followed, but each trail seemed to vanish into nothing. A passing motorist's tip about a suspicious man in a van turned out to be nothing. Footprints in a nearby field ended abruptly at a small creek. Every clue brought a flicker of hope, only for it to be snuffed out moments later, leaving a heavier weight of despair in its place. Families who had never met Emily personally began leaving teddy bears and flowers at the Thompson home, joining in the collective grief of a community desperate for answers. At night, the streets were eerily quiet, as if the town itself were holding its breath, waiting for some miracle that never came. Meanwhile, Emily's parents barely slept, haunted by the sound of her laughter echoing in their minds and the fear that they might never see her again. Sarah spent hours scanning every shadow, convinced she could spot her daughter hiding somewhere just out of sight. Mark, her father, drove endless miles through the county roads, stopping at every diner, gas station, and park, asking strangers if they had seen a small girl in a pink dress. Despite the relentless effort, the days stretched on with no answers, and the uncertainty gnawed at them, turning hope into desperation, and desperation into a simmering fear of the unthinkable. Nearly 10 months had passed since Emily's disappearance, and the town of Willow Creek was slowly sinking into despair. The search had quieted, the initial urgency replaced by a haunting sense of resignation. Flyers faded and yellowed on lampposts, and the streets felt emptier than ever. But then, one cold October morning, a local trucker named Joe made a call that would shake the police department. He had been driving past an abandoned industrial lot on the outskirts of town when he noticed a rusty old van parked in the shadows, its windows fogged and its engine cold, yet somehow out of place amidst the decaying warehouses. Something about it sent a chill down his spine, a feeling he couldn't shake. The police arrived swiftly, their headlights piercing the early fog as officers cautiously approached the vehicle. Every step crunching on the gravel felt like it echoed through the empty lot. Inside the van, they noticed signs of recent habitation. Blankets crumpled on the floor, a few scattered toys, and an eerie, faint smell of old food. The officers exchanged tense glances, knowing that this could either be a false alarm or the lead they had been waiting for nearly a year. Every creak of the van's metal doors sounded like a drumbeat in the quiet, raising the hair on their necks as they prepared to uncover whatever or whoever was inside. A sense of dread mixed with cautious hope filled the air as the team called in reinforcements and forensic experts. They documented every inch of the van, taking care not to disturb potential evidence. The neighborhood's whispers of hope began to stir again as word spread that the police might have finally found a clue to Emily's whereabouts. But as the van's interior came into view, the officers couldn't yet imagine the shocking sight that awaited them inside, a discovery that would unravel the mystery that had haunted the town for nearly a year. When the van doors slowly creaked open, the air inside seemed almost frozen, carrying a musty scent of damp blankets and stale air. The officers' flashlights cut through the darkness, revealing the cramped interior littered with small toys, a half-empty water bottle, and a blanket bundled tightly in the corner. At first, it looked empty, but then a soft whimper echoed from the back, barely audible over the heavy breaths of the officers. Hearts raced as they slowly approached the sound, every movement careful, knowing that the next moments could change everything. Then they saw her, Emily Thompson. Her small face peeked out from the blanket, wide-eyed and trembling. Dirt smudged her cheeks, her hair tangled, and her clothes worn, but she was alive. Relief collided with disbelief in the officers' minds, while outside the van, a crowd of anxious faces pressed closer, having heard the sirens and gathered in quiet anticipation. The little girl's eyes, though scared, held a glimmer of recognition as she reached out for the nearest officer. It was a moment frozen in time, 10 months of fear, worry, and uncertainty condensed into a single heartbeat of shock and joy. Next to her, partially hidden beneath the blankets, lay a small, tattered diary. Its pages were filled with scrawled notes, cryptic drawings, and the ramblings of someone who had kept Emily captive. The contents were chilling, a window into the mind of her abductor, revealing the twisted reasons behind the months of confinement. The officers carefully secured the diary as evidence, knowing it could hold the key to unraveling the identity of the person responsible. Every page deepened the mystery, raising more questions than answers as the town waited with bated breath to learn how such a young child had survived alone in the van for so long. Once Emily was safely in the care of the authorities, the investigation shifted into overdrive. Detectives meticulously examined the diary, comparing its cryptic notes and sketches with local reports and missing persons databases. Each page revealed unsettling glimpses into the mind of someone obsessed, someone who had carefully planned Emily's disappearance while remaining dangerously close to the family. Neighbors were re-interviewed, alibis re-checked, and even mundane details were scrutinized. The tension in the town grew as whispers spread. Everyone wanted to know who could commit such a heinous act and how they had managed to remain undetected for so long. Suspicion soon focused on someone the family had known all along, a trusted neighbor who had always appeared kind and helpful. Records revealed personal tragedies that had occurred years earlier, including the devastating loss of a child. The authorities pieced together a timeline that suggested the abductor had used that trust to their advantage, manipulating the family's perception while secretly holding Emily captive. Forensic evidence collected from the van, combined with the diary's chilling confessions, painted a horrifying picture of premeditation, yet the motives remained tangled in a web of grief, obsession, and delusion. The town was gripped by a mixture of relief and fear. Relief that Emily was alive, that the nightmare had ended, or at least had paused, and fear that someone capable of such darkness had been living among them all along. Community meetings were held, neighbors kept a wary eye on each other, and the Thompson family faced the harrowing task of slowly rebuilding their lives. Each revelation from the diary and the investigation added layers to the story that no one in Willow Creek would ever forget, leaving the entire community forever changed and questioning how safe their quiet streets truly were. As the investigation concluded, Emily was finally reunited with her family. Her parents held her tightly, tears streaming down their faces, knowing that the nightmare that had haunted them for 10 long months was finally over. But the town of Willow Creek would never forget the chilling truth. The darkness that had hidden in plain sight, the quiet terror of a neighbor turned predator, and the fragile line between trust and danger. Emily's story became a reminder of resilience, of hope in the face of despair, and of the importance of vigilance. Though she was safe, the memory of her ordeal lingered, etched into the hearts of everyone who had waited, worried, and prayed for her return. And as life slowly returned to normal, one question remained in the minds of the town: how well do we truly know the people around us? Even years later, whenever the wind rustled through the trees near that abandoned lot, the memory of those 10 months of fear and suspense whispered through the streets. A haunting reminder that sometimes the most terrifying mysteries are closer than we ever imagined.
If you liked this video, don't forget to hit that like button, share it with your friends, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. Most importantly, subscribe and hit the bell icon so the next secret finds you first.